Alright, today I'm going to make a video on avoidance. Alright, for psychology, this is a really important concept. Avoidance is a special case of negative reinforcement. So, one, we got the escape. Escape being like, oh my god, there's a tiger or a bear in my house. I need to get the hell out of here. Avoidance would be like, alright, well, it's going to rain tomorrow, according to my app. So, I'd better use an umbrella and get it prepared in my bag before I leave my home. So you're avoiding the stimulus entirely. There are different avoidance procedures that are in place, and there are two different specific theories that I'll be going over for avoidance theories. Now, first would be negative reinforcement. So once again, escape is aversive stimulus is already occurring, and the organism response terminates it, such as, oh my god, it's raining on me, I better open this umbrella to escape the rain. Avoidance would be, my response prevents the aversive stimulus from even occurring. So opening your umbrella before you even get out into the rain, or checking your weather app. Avoidance procedures would be signaled avoidance. A signal stimulus precedes an aversive stimulus. A great example would be you have an ex-girlfriend that lives in the same town as you. This is definitely a real thing. And you see her car in the parking lot, so you are now signaled to avoid the potential of the consequence of seeing your ex. A shuttle box was used on rats, where they would use a tone and an electric shock. They would pair those two stimuluses together. Next thing you know, the tone represents a aversive stimulus, such as the shock. Non-signaled avoidance would be doing the same test at random variable times, and then having the animal have to use a lever to stop the shock. But sometimes, you're pairing the electrical shock with no sound. So that would be a non-signaled avoidance situation there. However, you could use the lever, the rat could use the lever to stop the shock from occurring. Theories of avoidance. What theories? What reinforces the avoidance response? Reinforcement requires something getting added. So positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. So adding a behavior in your environment that you want to happen again, or taking away something in the environment that you want the behavior to happen again. If the aversive stimulus is neither added or taken away, it can't be reinforcing the behavior. So if the stimulus never happens, such as the rain coming or your ex-girlfriend never showing up and you yelling and getting into some argument, then that never becomes a reinforcer, essentially. Okay, so two-factor theory. Let's see here. You see your ex's car in the parking lot. You're on your way to the coffee shop. You see your ex. This definitely should be avoidable. However, this is how you have now remembered that this is an aversive stimulus. Now, you see your ex's car, and that becomes an SD. So your ex is now the aversive stimulus. So now your response is driving away or going to a different coffee shop. This is your response or behavior. Driving away reduces your fear, anger, or disgust, or your FAD. Fear, anger, disgust, acronymed as FAD, brought to you by the stimulus. The dissipation of the stimulus would be, you must learn that there is a signal for the aversive stimulus, which is your ex's car, because she represents the aversiveness stimulus. The car is a primary representation of something aversive. Okay, so this would be beating a dead horse. This is a little bit of a review here. Two-factor theory. Factor 1, classical conditioning of fear, anger, or disgust, FAD, to a signal for the aversive stimulus. Okay, unconditioned stimulus was the aversive stimulus. You didn't see it coming, right? But now it's Your unconditioned response is your fear, anger, or disgust of the aversive stimulus. Your conditioned stimulus is the signal for the aversive stimulus, which would be the car, right? Seeing your ex's car. Let's say it's a green Jetta. But now you have a conditioned response, which is your fear, anger, and disgust of the car. Not only your ex, but now it's applied to your car, to her car. So seeing a green Jetta is going to be an automatic conditioned response. So ex's car is neutral. Now you see your ex. So now you feel crappy inside. Next time you see your ex's car driving down the street, maybe she's driving down the same street as you, you will automatically have a conditioned response of fear, anger, and disgust. Factor 2, operant conditioning of the avoidance response, which decreases the conditioned response. So this is the second factor to you being prepared, correct? So now the RAV is negatively reinforced. FAD is reduced via termination of the conditioned stimulus. So you're gonna feel less fear, anger, and fear, anger, and disgust if you stop the situation from happening. So you see your ex's car, and if you avoid that, then your second factor to this is avoidance. Then you won't have to feel all of those feelings. So so you got the classical factor, which is you're automatically getting this kind of feeling, and then you have the operant factor, which is, okay, we need to not feel this. I need to avoid this. Because naturally the classical conditioning would be, okay, now I know that this green Jetta makes me upset. But the operant response to that would be, okay, let's get away from this, the Jetta. Let's not see this. Such as, like, if you need to avoid the rat needs to avoid getting shocked during an exercise or during a clinical trial. The rat's going to try to jump off the floor. He's going to try to get away from it, especially if the shock in the shuttle box is paired with a sound, which, sets a signal. It makes it easier. However, the two-factor theory does not explain a no-signal situation. That makes it a little complicated. Let's say you have a car and it has a broken gas gauge, and it also has a broken odometer, okay? It's going to be hard to figure out when your car's going to run out of gas. So most people would be able to, your avoidance behavior would be, your avoidance of running out of gas would be getting gas like every other day. You just go to a gas station, put a few bucks in, and you'll have fuel. An escape behavior is you're driving the car and you're ignoring it, and you wait for the car to kind of stutter and get a rough idle. Maybe it's running really bad because it's so low on fuel, that the car's just not running well. Then you get fuel. That's escape, because you're not avoiding, you're just escaping the behavior. However, another way to avoid it is using a passage of time. It's hard to gauge how far you're driving sometimes, but you could just say, hey, I drove 25 minutes today. I probably used this much fuel. You can kind of do an estimate in your head. But it also doesn't explain, if there's a thief taking your fuel and your gas. The two-factor can't really explain how to deal with such a behavior, because that's a variable that's inconsistent. Maybe someone's siphoning your gas in the morning, and they take a little bit of fuel, and then a week later they take a lot of fuel, and it's consistent, but it's invariable of it's a variation of it gets complicated from there. However, two-factor theory is fairly intuitive. It's still a good theory. However, it's not able to deal with variables that go beyond that simplicity. One-factor theory was made in the 60s, and essentially it was the rats were shocked on a variable time schedule of 6 seconds, the rat would receive 1 shock, which is 10 shocks a minute, 600 shocks per session. Each psychology session for this was an hour long. It's usually held at the test were. However, they press the lever, they would get it every 12 seconds. You better bet the rat was pressing that lever quite frequently, and it would bring the shocks down to 300 an hour. And, life sucks for the rat. This only, it dropped it by 50%. However, my professor made the example. This is the avoidance of a shit sandwich. Instead, you just get some shit. So the one-factor theory dealt with the variability of things that can happen. What's reinforcing in the rat's lever pressing? Well, the reduction of the shock. Everybody wants to make their life a little better. Shock frequency reduction. One-factor theory focuses on long-term frequency of the RAV. RAV is reinforced by overall reduction of shock frequency. Overall reduction of shock frequency. Yeah. So that's basically the main premise of the one-factor theory. So two-factor, you got the signaled conditions. That's how you deal with that with the two-factor theory, which is good for signals. However, one factor would deal with the variability, non-signaled or variable time conditions. I really appreciate you guys watching this, and I hope that this provides some help. I try to run through this fairly fast, and I appreciate it very much, and I hope that you can help use this for solving the constant rate in terms of anxiety and other things such as that. So just remember that that two-factor would be molecular, and molecular would be local, like something that's right in front of you. It concentrates on what happens immediately after the behavior. And one factor would be molar. So it would concentrate on a larger, so molar being global, molecular being local, and the molar or global concentrates on a larger overall time frame. So this is like, one factor can really deal with solving constant anxiety. So both are well supported. Two-factor is signaled conditions. One factor is non-signal or variable time conditions. All right, thank you for watching.